Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. Smooth talking, sophisticated, great taste in cars. But that's enough about me. James Bond is one of the most iconic fictional characters over the past 70 years, but the villains, well, they're something else. From the likes of Scaramanga, Dr. No and Jaws, the villains were fierce adversaries with evil plans of world domination. And now we finally get to play as those antagonists in Spectre The Board Game from Modiphius, those behind Skyrim the Adventure Game and Fallout Wasteland Warfare. Spectre is a 2 to 4 player game where you represent one of Bond's deadly villains, where the game boasts worker placement, resource management, secret bidding and some backstabbing in an attempt to become Spectre's number 1 or number 2. Wait, do we get sharks with lasers? The game comes with 5 Bond villains to include Kleb, Blofeld, Kristatos, Largo and Silver, and each player controls a villain and henchman pawn as well as some agents. The game board contains 7 action spaces or regions that provide bonuses and areas to place your agents, as well as a Spectre track which is used to record victory. Each villain player board also has a number of action spaces specific to that villain, but some of them are locked at the start of the game and require resources from this area to make them accessible. There are 2 decks of cards that sit on the board, and these are missions that players can resolve in a semi-co-op fashion and secret plans that allow villains to progress up the Spectre track if they're completed. The game is played over a number of rounds where villains use their pawns to carry out actions on both the game and player board spaces in order to place agents, gain resources or other advantages, where the round culminates in players vying for control of regions on the main board and a secret bidding mechanic to complete missions. As play continues, villains will be moving up the Spectre track, and the game ends when the last missing card is discarded, with the winner being the villain who moved farthest along the track. Let's take a look. The game has a simple worker placement mechanic where pawns are placed onto one of the board action spaces. Doing this allows you to place agents into a region, which becomes important when determining majority later, and also provide a unique bonus such as gaining resources or adding agents to other regions. The regions only have space for 1 pawn, but villains can make use of action spaces on their player board. At the start of the game, only 2 spaces are unlocked, where one is unique to that villain and the other is called a finalize action that allow you to unlock these areas by spending resources. All of these action spaces provide very unique abilities, either passive, instant or requiring the use of pawns, so you'll want to unlock them early to make the most out of them, as they'll provide huge advantages during play. Each round, as agents are getting placed into regions on the board, the villains may be able to claim majorities if they have the most number of agents, and this will be assessed for each region. Again, holding majority provides rewards and also allows you to claim the region token that may become important as part of completing secret objectives. At the start of each round, villains have the chance to work in a semi-cooperative fashion to complete revealed mission cards. Each of these is slightly different, but by the end of the round, players will have to look at meeting the card's objective, such as having a number of agents in certain regions on the game board, or even having a villain forego their turn by placing their pawn on the card. If the mission is completed, players can then draw and attempt secret plan cards, as well as move up the Spectre track if they had the most involvement in this mission. Secret plans require resources to be spent, have agents in particular regions, or even hold a specific type or number of majority tokens that provide vast movement on the Spectre track. The game is simple in its structure, but offers a few mechanics cleverly moulded into one game. During the pawn placement phase, you'll need to decide between action spaces on the game board or player board, and this will depend on whether you need to place agents, gain resources, or potentially unlock one of your more powerful, unique actions. This also ties in with the requirements of the draw mission card, as well as which secret plans you can attempt later. For the most part, you'll only be able to complete secret plans if you had more input into resolving the mission card than other villains. The mission cards state how to complete the objective. Perhaps all players need agents on a certain region on the board. These agents will score each player mission points, where the mission cards have a point threshold that you'll need to meet based on the number of players in the game. This value can be topped up with resources in a closed bid, where you can attempt to bid more to be the victor or less, purposely failing that mission. If you fail, the group will be punished, but if you pass, there is potential to claim and attempt secret plans that can see you overtake other villains on the Spectre track. I quite like this mechanic as it feels a little devious and is pretty awesome when you use some sneaky trick to ensure victory and leap ahead on that Spectre track. The special actions on the player boards are pretty cool, and it does remind me a little of the villainous games in some respect. I'm not going to go over all of them, but some are passive abilities like placing agents at the start of a round or moving others when you take an action. These are quite thematic, and each locked action costs a different amount of resources to unlock. One of my favourites is that of Largo, where you can drop a bomb, move up the Spectre track, and then the game ends immediately. This is great fun to do as it could seal victory, but is very expensive to unlock. However, once the game ends, all players still have the chance to complete secret plans, so the Spectre track standings can still change. One thing I haven't mentioned is villain hierarchy. Each player is given a rank standing card numbered 1 to 4, and these all have a special ability for that round and dictate turn order. At the end of a round, these ranks change hand based on Spectre track positioning, so you may be able to take advantage of a new bonus ability on the next round. And yes, James Bond does make an appearance. Wait a minute, are we the baddies? Each round, one villain will roll 2 dice that signifies Bond infiltrating our secret base and thwarting our plans of world domination, and is represented by a very cool poker chip. If the result is 2 gun barrels, then Bond removes agents from across the board. If it's 2 numbers, then you sum up the values and Bond sits on that region, removing the agents and blocking the space. However, if the result is a barrel and a number, the player holding the rank card of that number can send Bond to another player. That player has their lock tokens on their player board flipped, making it more expensive to remove them, and has to reveal one of their secret plans, as punishment for being informant. Snitches get stitches, yo. However, that player can choose which region Bond sits on for the next round. Although fairly light, the game is fun and full of tactical decisions and backstabbing. Some of the actions only allow villain pawns, others henchmen, and some both. It's nice to spoil the majority of agents in regions by either breaking ties or causing them, preventing others getting that bonus. Sneaky. In fact, if you win majority at the first region on a board, as a reward you can move an agent from that region to another, potentially upsetting majority elsewhere. All villains play completely differently, which is pretty cool and are really fun to use, and I like the way Bond moves across the board and into villain play areas too. The hierarchy cards add a little variability because these may change with each round. As well as dictating turn order, abilities include placing agents in regions or even re-rolling the Bond dice. Also, some locked action spaces on villain boards can be unlocked in any order, whereas other villains require you to lock the actions in a particular sequence. The game has fairly quick playtime, perhaps 45 minutes at 4 players, and there is very little downtime. It may take a game or two to fully understand the rule exceptions, and obviously it does have a bit of take that, and some gamers may not like this, but I don't mind. But it does play well at all player counts. I like the table talk from the mission cards being a little deceitful, and although I'm not a huge Bond fan, I quite enjoyed the theme. Thank you for watching. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.